Dear friends, the Motorcycle Diaries. This is a diary of a famous revolutionary, Che Guevara, Ernesto Che Guevara. This diary is from about his early age. The Motorcycle Diaries. So the diaries start like in January 1952. Ernesto Guevara is a medical student in Buenos Aires, Argentina. His friend and fellow medical student Alberto Granado suggests that two of them take a motorcycle trip through South America together with the ultimate aim of seeing the San Pablo leper colony in Peru, in which Alberto is professionally interested. The man repairs Alberto's old motorcycle, which they affectionately and mockingly name La Poderosa, means the powerful, say goodbye to their family and set off from the Buenos Aires. The man traveled for some days and stopped in Miramar, Argentina to visit Ernesto's girlfriend Chichina and her family. Although he and Alberto are setting out on a youthful adventure, Ernesto finds it hard to tear himself away from the comfort and excitement of his romance. He stays for 8 days and gives Chichina a dog named Comeback, showing his intention to return to her side, although he never does. After leaving Chichina and her family, the man crosses into Chile, although they have to stop almost every few days because of La Poderosa's many mechanical failing and accident. Their frequent stops in rural town lead them to meet people from all walks of life, from the mechanic who fixes the motorcycle to local doctor who take an interest in them and feed and shelter them. They even tell local newspaper that they are leprosy expert. Although they are really medical student. Consequently, local communities respect and help them, making for an easy journey. In the north of Chile, they visit the Chiquicamata copper mine, a huge source of wealth for Chile, although not for its working class, which is run by US mining companies. Guevara notes how dangerous the work is and asks his guide how many people died since the mine's creation. This experience leads Ernesto to observe the rampant injustice that miners face and the devastation that capitalist industry controlled by foreign companies can inflict on local communities. While camping, Ernesto meets a mining couple who are homeless, having been blacklisted from the mines for their communist belief, which were illegal at that time. Ernesto feels deeply sympathetic to the couple, and he comes to believe that communism isn't a dangerous ideology, but rather a natural response to class-based oppression and poor living condition. In Peru, La Poderosa finally breaks down for good because they now have to hitchhike or work for their passage between cities. The two men spend more time with working class, especially indigenous farmers and laborers. Ernesto observed that the Indians face additional oppression because of their race, even from Europeans who are barely better off economically. Observing the traditional rituals of indigenous people, Ernesto is impressed with the strength and resilience of pre-Columbian cultures in the face of centuries of oppression. Ernesto visits Cusco and Lima, two cities that are important centers of European power and culture, but they also contain the remains of Inca civilization that were there before. Ernesto visits ruins of fortresses and castles and is deeply moved by their power and sophistication. By examining these cities' layers of ancient, colonial, and modern architecture and infrastructure, he demonstrates the European attempt to suppress indigenous culture by erasing evidence that is existed. Ernesto finds it inspiring that indigenous culture, sites, and practices have survived these repeated attempts at obliteration, and he views this survival as evidence that indigenous proletariat can and will rise up to reclaim the political and economical power that is rightfully theirs. In Lima, Ernesto meets Hugo PC, a doctor in charge of National Leprosy Program. PC helps direct Ernesto exploration of the city, and he eventually sends Ernesto and Alberto to the San Pablo leper colony deep in the Amazon. Ernesto observed the appalling living condition at the colony, but he is inspired by the work of the doctors and the hopeful attitudes of the patient. Although he is studying to be a doctor and he came to observe the treatment of leprosy as a disease, he writes about the lepers in terms of the political oppression, showing that his thoughts are shifting away from medicine and towards political activism. After this, the young man traveled north to Colombia. In Bogota, they observed conditions under the particularly repressive right-wing regime. Ernesto says that the constant presence of police in civilian life erodes personal dignity, and he predicts correctly that these conditions will help foment revolution. In Caracas, Venezuela, Ernesto and Alberto finally separate, although the trip has changed and inspired both of them. It changes them differently. Alberto begins to seriously consider a career as leprologist, while Ernesto abandons the medical profession and begins to develop a communist ideology. After Alberto leaves, Ernesto travels by himself through rural village in Venezuela. Here he meets an enigmatic European stranger who has fled his own country because of his revolutionary actions, although Ernesto doesn't specify that these are, and now travels around South America, waiting for the chance to participate in another movement. The strange tells Ernesto that when revolution comes, it will be huge and impersonal, and that the creation of a new proletarian society will require the sacrifice of many lives. This prediction inspires Ernesto. At this point, he becomes completely committed not only to communist ideology, but also to a revolution by violence. He says that humankind is divided into two antagonistic halves, the oppressor and the oppressed, and he affirms that when it comes time for these groups to battle, I will be with the people. Ernesto envisions himself consumed with fury, fighting and killing on behalf of the proletariat. Ernesto's final paragraphs offer the prospect of society with more justice and equality, but he warns that this new world must be purchased through violence and sacrifice. So this is the story of the Motorcycle's Diaries by Ernesto Che Guevara. So, as you know, Che Guevara was a famous man born in a middle-class Argentinian family. Ernesto Che Guevara became one of the most important revolutionary figures of the 20th century. As a student, he traveled around South America, a trip this book details. So, the diary of the motorcyclist, as it notes on Latin American journey, Guevara ostensibly wrote his memoir as a memory or impromptu diary entries during 1952 expedition. Written in South America, published in 1993. So period was a modern Cold War period. Genre of this is memoirs setting in South America. The climax of this diary is when While the Motorcycle Diary is not a traditionally structured book that follows a strict plot structure, one important point both of climax and resolution comes when Ernesto meets a stranger in Venezuela with whom he discusses the inevitability of proletarian revolution. So, agnostic of this diary is class operation, capitalism, and first person this is written from the viewpoint of first person. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you will enjoy this interesting diary written by Ernesto Che Guevara.